What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We got our boy Brian here. He drives his Freightliner Coronado glider. We call it Blackberry Haze, thanks to our followers for naming it. You might have seen this guy on our shorts on YouTube or our TikTok. He's been going viral lately. He's got some very good points, so stay tuned till the end of the video. Let's go introduce y'all to him. Tell us 5 places you hate going with the truck.
5 places. Atlanta, I think, is #1 for everybody. Chicago, definitely New York City, all 5 boroughs, all that. I did it for years, running Hunts Point Market, all that. Believe it or not, I actually hate Houston a little bit, downtown. You get in all the interchanges, 45, 10, all that. It can be a nightmare sometimes. I'd have to say Charlotte, because sometimes Charlotte can be a pain going through downtown on I-77, you know, actual downtown Charlotte. If you take the bypass, it ain't too bad, but if you got to go straight through 77, it can get hectic at times, especially during rush hour. But yeah, I'd say those are probably my main top 5 places.
To touch up on that, which city do you think, from your experience, has the worst drivers?
And if y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like. Let's get back to the video.
I'd say Atlanta. I mean, I've literally watched cars on 285 in Atlanta hit each other and keep on driving. I mean, it's crazy, man. It really truly is. And I know a lot of people say that, especially drivers that's been out here for any amount of time and have spent enough time in Atlanta. I used to run a dedicated route to Kroger when I pulled a tanker to downtown Atlanta, and I'm talking streets that you had to take up both sides to get through there. And I was literally on 285 coming south, back towards 75 to come towards Florida. And I literally watched a car came out of the, so 285 is 4 lanes, so you had 2 lanes to the left, 2 lanes to the right. She came out of the second left lane and went to the far left lane and literally hit another car. They touched, the one went towards the wall, luckily didn't hit the wall, and they just, neither one of them pulled over, they just kept driving. I'm like, well, I guess that's the way it goes around here, I guess. I don't know, but it was crazy.
They had somewhere more important to be, I guess.
Apparently, that they just didn't have time to stop or whatever.
Either that or both of them didn't have insurance.
I mean, it's Atlanta, so I mean, you can't be too sure around there. I don't think half of them have insurance, let alone a license. So that would say that's probably one of the worst places that I've ever seen that bad of drivers. Yes.
Automatic or manual? What's your preference?
Man, I'm a manual guy. I started in 2009, and I've pretty much driven a manual ever since. 18, 13, 8LL, 15, Super 10s. There's pretty much nothing I really haven't driven. I've always wanted to drive an old 2-stick. Never done that yet, but it's on my list. To me, you have more control over the vehicle, you know, over everything. So I have driven automatics. I've driven a Volvo with the Allison in it. And then I've also driven a couple of Freightliners that had the Eaton 12-speed, whatever it is. And I don't know, man. I mean, the delay in the transmission I don't like, especially when you're backing up to a dock door. You got to feather it so much, it's like you're barely even touching the throttle and it still jerks.
Yeah.
And then to me, I just don't like, you're beating the crap out of your equipment, you're beating the crap out of somebody's dock door, you know. So for me, it's always, if I have a choice, I'm choosing a manual every day over an automatic.
What's your favorite 10-speed, 13-speed?
13-speed. 13-speed's the best for an everyday. Unless you're pulling heavy, a 13-speed is the best transmission in my opinion. It's got a good gear ratio and everything, and that's what I've mainly driven most of my driving career is a 13-speed. And I like an 18, but you really don't need an 18 unless you're hauling heavy.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you split lower gears. But to me, an everyday is a 13. I'll drive a 13 every day of the week.
Yeah, shoot, I don't blame you. What do you think the problem in the trucking industry is?
You know, that is a good question. You know, obviously when COVID happened, everybody and their brothers decided they were going to go out and get a DOT because they were giving loans to anybody and everybody. It's not a driver shortage. Everybody says there's a driver shortage. No, there's not, because there's too many drivers is the problem. That's why everybody's hauling freight for cheap, because there's so many, and then everybody went out and got these loans, started a company, did all this back when COVID happened because the money was really good. But me being in the industry as long as I knew it was only going to last for a certain amount of period of time. And that's the thing. Now they got all these high dollar truck payments and they pay triple amount what the truck's worth now. So they're out there just whatever they can do to haul to make at least some type of money. But what they don't realize, they're just hurting themselves in the long run.
Yeah.
When you take a load that's only paying X amount of dollars a mile, say under $2 a mile, well, at that point you're not making no money. You're barely breaking even.
Right.
By the time you put anything aside for maintenance, anything fuel. Fuel's still not the cheapest by no means. There's still some places it's over $4 a gallon. But or close to it. And that's the thing. Believe it or not, my old dispatcher said, I wish just half of them would fall off, and freight would probably go back up for a little bit anyway.
It would, for sure.
I mean, we're kind of average to what a normal deal is, but that's the problem. There's so many people in the industry that it's hard when you have that many people bidding on a load or and they'll do it for 10, 20, 30 cents cheaper, but for people like us here and everywhere else that's out here actually trying to make a dollar, it makes it tough because these brokers, this is all I got in it, and they're still going to find that guy that's going to haul it for that price, and that's the sad part.
Yeah, but the other thing is these people went and got them loans, so that truck payment is due every month. Yep. But they also can't sell the truck because, like you said, they overpaid.
You're too upside down on it. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. It's either let it go back to the bank and now you got a repossession on it, or you're out here trying to turn pennies into nickels. Basically, and it ain't gonna happen. It doesn't happen that way, and especially with the price. We, as y'all know, taking care of trucks, maintenance ain't cheap. Tires ain't cheap. Repairs ain't cheap. And then when you're taking that cheap freight and you're not even barely affording to buy fuel and do this, what happens if a clutch goes out?
Yeah.
A clutch nowadays is probably well over $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just little things like that. They could go out tomorrow. What are you going to do? And you can only take so many loans. You're only going to be able to owe so many people before you get to that point where now you can't even afford to live because you owe so many people because you're borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul. So that's how I see it.
Paul's a rich man.
Paul is a rich man. That he is. I want to be Paul one day, but I just keep working hard.
I'll let Paul in the shop know that you want to be like.
Let me borrow $20, Paul.
What's your advice for future truckers?
Future truckers, to me, the problem is they don't take their time. They're not trained properly. That's my biggest thing with newer drivers. These companies, not saying any names, but bigger companies, it's all about a butt in a seat. And I don't agree with that. I agree that if a driver is not ready to be out on his own, he's not ready. But the biggest thing is drivers also have to take an accountability for their actions is if you're not sure of something, ask somebody. Like, get advice. Like, when I started driving, in 2009, if I ran across an old timer that's been out here for a long time, I'd ask him his advice on something, or I'd say, hey man, I'm going up this way. Can you give me any, recommendations of what's a better way to go? Because obviously, everybody wants to trust their GPS nowadays, but there's still times your GPS is not going to it's going to try to take you down a road you're not supposed to be on, or an area you're not supposed to be in. And nobody teaches these new drivers how to read an atlas. So if new drivers would take the time and actually learn the industry, learn different things about it, and not just, I got a CDL and I'm making money and I don't care about nothing else as long as I'm bringing home a paycheck, that's the problem. You don't care. And I'm one of those drivers, I'm very passionate about what I do. That's why I've done it for so long. But you have to have that ability to be that way, in my opinion, to want to learn the industry, want to learn the ins and outs of it, not just driving it, but all aspects of it. Understand what your dispatcher goes through. You're not the only person she's dealing with, or he's dealing with. He's dealing with several other people.
Yeah.
And some of these drivers, they act like they want it done and they want it done right now, and it doesn't work that way. I had to learn it. I was the same way. Patience is a virtue. And that's my biggest thing, is just take your time, learn the industry. If you're not sure about something, ask somebody. There are still drivers out here like myself that is more than willing to help somebody out, give them advice, whatever I can do. If you have a question about it, maybe your trainer didn't teach you how to back up properly, don't be afraid to get out and ask. I know a lot of drivers nowadays are, don't bother me, but I'm not one of them drivers. I'm one of them drivers that if you come to me and say, hey man, look, can you give me a few pointers or help me out a little bit, I'm there. If I see you backing in beside me at a truck stop, obviously I'm not one of them guys sitting in my truck filming you, waiting for you to hit my truck. I'm gonna get out and, hey man, I'm just gonna stand here. If you want help, I'm here, but I'm just gonna make sure you don't hit my truck or hit somebody else's.
Yeah.
It's just common courtesy, man. This industry lacks common courtesy so bad anymore, it's not even funny. And we're all out here doing the same job. We're all out here trying to move America.
Yeah. Everyone's just trying to take care of their family.
Yeah,
man.
that's
all
it.
is. So do you think the younger generation didn't want to listen, or the older generation didn't want to teach the younger generation?
To be honest, I think it's a little both. I really do. I think some of these old school drivers just don't have the patience to deal with some of these newer drivers, this newer generation, because we all know this newer generation's nothing like the older generation. I mean, obviously, I was born in the '80s, so you know, I was raised a little differently than a lot of the newer generation that are coming in 20, 21 years old these days. You know, it's amazing how much generations have changed just in the last 10 years. You know, but
imagine 10 years from now.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing is, if drivers like myself that's been out here for a while, that's our job, is we need to pass down information to these newer drivers that may not understand something, but the newer drivers also need to understand that some of these old guys, you know, they've been out here a long time, man, and they just don't like dealing with stupidity. They don't like dealing with dumbness, and that's just how it is. If you approach them in the right way, 90% of the time, I'd say they'll sit down and talk to you forever. You know, some of these guys have been out here 20, 30, 40 years. Imagine all the information they have in that period of time. You know, so I'd say it's a little bit of both.
Now, if you could change one thing about trucking, what would you change?
My biggest thing is all the regulations. It seems like every time we turn around, there's a regulation for something. And we're not robots. And that's what it seems like they're trying to make us. They're trying to make us robots on every little aspect of our job, wanting to know every little detail, every little thing. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because obviously there are drivers out there that do stuff that they shouldn't be doing. But it just seems like every time we turn around, it's just regulation after regulation after regulation.
Can't even keep up no more.
Pick a top 10, and let's keep the top 10 most important regulations that you feel that's important to us, then stick by it. You're not going to be able to make a regulation for every little thing out there, but that's what it seems to me like they're trying to do. You know, I mean, it gets overwhelming. I remember back in the day where, you know, it wasn't 11 and 14. It was pretty much whatever, 8 and 10 or whatever, you know, but it was a lot different, you know, and now it's just like, they're so just, let's refine it and make it a little bit even more difficult, you know, and it's like you're rewriting a lot of the same regulations, but you're making it more difficult.
Yeah.
It is how I see it. So just to me, just dying down on the regulations so much, man. You're just making it more difficult for anybody to survive out here.
Yeah. But also just making a job less and less desirable.
Well, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
It gets to that point where sometimes it's not fun because of everything you have to deal with.
Yeah. It's kind of like being micromanaged in a way.
Yeah.
And you can't do nothing about it.
My thing about that is I'm a grown adult. I don't need a babysitter. So if you got to babysit me, then I don't need to be driving your truck.
Yeah.
That's how I look at
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Do you think someone under the age of 21 should be able to leave the state?
Honestly, it depends. There are some drivers that have that maturity level, but there's a lot of people that don't. You know, obviously at 18, you've only had your license for a couple years. You don't know everything. You're never going to know everything. But the thing is you have to understand that this ain't a car. It's an 80,000 pound death machine, and you can kill somebody in a blink of an eye if you don't pay attention to what you're doing.
Right.
And if I would say I would be okay with it if they were with somebody that would teach them the ropes of being out there. I don't mind starting at a younger age. Sometimes I wish I could have started when I was younger. But the biggest thing is you got to be smart about it and understand that this ain't a Honda Civic. This is a rolling death machine down the highway, and Cindy Lou cuts you off and you're not paying attention, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. So
if you have the maturity level, or you're with somebody that can teach you the right way, once again goes back to how I believe training is nowadays, I'd be okay with it. But there's a lot of people that think it should be older, and then there's times that I think maybe the age should be a little older. You know, instead of 21, maybe like 24.
Yeah.
Given that maturity level, you know, you got to grow up. You know, this is not a game out here. I understand everybody wants to make money, and you can make really good money doing this job, but you have to do it smart.
Safety as well. Safety's everything.
Safety is a big key factor, and people they fail to understand that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So
when will trucking get better? What do you think?
Man, I don't know. I keep hoping every day, but I'm not saying it's not getting a little better, but I mean, it's one of those things. You went from a real high to a real low, and yeah, that happened pretty quick. A lot of people wasn't ready for it. A lot of people went under business. I mean, we've seen mega carriers closing their doors after 50, 60 years because you just don't know what's going to happen. And if your finances ain't right, you're going to have to close up shop.
Yeah.
You know, so all I can do is I'm hoping within maybe 5 years, you know, we can get back to a normal, pretty decent thing. But I mean, really, it just depends on how everything goes in the country. When the country changes, everything else changes, and everybody knows. I mean, we turn the world. We move everything, you know. So when that gets better, things get better for us.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, man.
Stay
Appreciate
safe
it.
out there. That was our guy, Brian. We're glad he joined the team. Man. He's such a hard worker. We really appreciate everything he does. Drop a like on the video. If y'all enjoyed the content, follow us. We use our platform to raise awareness about what truckers go through and just to spread positivity. Show some love, man. All the best.